Hello everyone, it's a new month, a new week, a new Monday. It's actually the 3rd of April 2017. I'm as usual Dakian, and as always I'm showing you my finished miniatures and works in progress and projects to come. And I actually got some stuff done. I warned you that I wouldn't have a lot of time this past week, and I was kind of preparing for not having any finished minis this week at all, but I actually picked up the slack during the weekend and I actually buckled down and did a lot of painting. So first of all, I finished these four cultists, the Thuggy cultists and the Collie cultists. Now the thing I'm unsure about is the skin tones. I tried to find, like, they're supposed to be Indians, as people from India, so they should have slightly darker skin tones than Europeans. I might have gone a bit too light on the ladies and too dark on the dude. I should have split the difference perhaps, because see, this girl, she's just barely a bit more tan than a white European, whereas this guy is very dark skinned. But learning experience. Now, I hope you can see I've tried to paint two different blacks here. The turban and the sash on this guy are, as is the clothing on the ladies, a gray black, while the beard and the hair on the women should be a blue black. So for instance, the undertunic on this cultist is the gray black, and the hair here should have overtones of blue. And the snake, of course, it's actually two snakes coiled around each other, are green. But yeah, overall I'm fine with how these turned out. But wait, that's not all! I also finished, well, as finished as it's gonna get, the actual avatar of Kali herself. Now, as I said, I put her on a pile of skulls, which is appropriate. There were a few challenges with this model. Now, first off, painting blue skin is harder than you might think. I'm going to show it to you from two distances. This is pretty far away. I'm going to cut to a close-up as well, and to describe the challenges more in detail, because, well, you know, from this distance it looks pretty good, doesn't it? Well, let's see what happens. Okay, so now we're up close and personal. And you can see the difficulty in, I mean, because in artwork, Kali is not depicted as having in any way natural skin. It's a bright blue, usually. So I tried to copy that. And it's very hard to highlight and shade this without going over the top. I went over it several times. I had much starker contrasts, and then I toned them down, and I tried to bring the highlights back up again. But eventually I settled for this kind of subtle look. And I'm, you know, especially on the face, I'm kind of not terribly happy with it. But the face in this model is very much shaded by the hair anyway. It's very difficult to see. So, I don't know. The other difficult thing was that her skirt, it's made up of severed hands. How to paint those so it didn't look weird. So I've tried to paint these mostly like a tan skin color. I thought about letting them go greenish or bluish as if they'd started to rot, but no, I eventually decided that would just mix in too much with the blue. I wanted to keep it distinct, and so I made it more natural looking, but Yeah, at first it looked way too pink. I did too much of a skin tone. Now it's I to make it just visually work. I had to darken it down quite a bit. So now I'm not sure if you can tell that it's actually hands. But this was an interesting experiment. It was an interesting, a very different type of challenge. So, yeah, I hope you think it turned out okay, at least. And a little bit more paint is put on the Jabberwock. Mostly the upper scales, the bright green parts, which I think are kind of done. I don't know that I need to do more work on them. However, the belly scales and the wings, and of course all the little details like eyes and teeth and mouth and claws and whatnot need some work. Especially, I'm not sure about the wings. The wings are a major area, and because I've gone so bright with the scales, I've used a lot of iridescent medium to get this almost metallic look on the scales. So I think as a contrast, I want the wings to be kind of dull. And I haven't quite figured out which color combination I should go with. Right now they're kind of a minty green, as is the belly scales. There is a sort of version of green, but I'm going to shift that to, I think, towards the red spectrum. At least shade it red, a rust red maybe. We'll see. I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to do it. I'm also not sure how much I want to go back in with the wings, because as I put paint to them, I've realized that there is some, on the edges of the wings, there are some rough spots in the casting that could do with, going back in with a file and smoothing it out, which would mean repainting them afterwards. I probably will do that. I'm too much of a perfectionist not to leave it alone. It just looks too bad. It just looks sloppy when you look at it up close. But yeah, we'll see. Possibly for the wings, some sort of dull brown leather look maybe to contrast the bright green scales. We'll see what I come up with. Yeah. And here I've primed and, prepped and primed these pulpy figures from Statuesque Miniatures. And I like how they turned out. They were very easy to clean off. Very clean castings. Not really any mold lines to mention. And the thing I was dreading was attaching this Tommy gun, but that was surprisingly easy because they had designed that attachment point very well. There was a hole, I drilled out the hole in his arm even more, of course, but there was a rather long sort of molded pin attached to the hand. So it made it very easy to slide in and glue in place. Now the Tommy gun looks a bit weird because it has no stock, or maybe you should assume the stock has slid up his sleeve somehow, but oh well. I don't think people who just give it a glance are going to think about this. This guy, he reminds me of a comic book character from the 60s or 70s, I believe. I forgot his name. It's something Italian. God, how embarrassing. I almost feel like I should stop this video and look it up, but never mind. You can shout it in the comments to me. Anyway. Yeah. I particularly like that it's not just some generic handgun. It's a very specific handgun. And seems historically accurate. That I like. Here we have the Pulp Heroine. She's not holding her gun. Her pistol is still holstered. She's like in a kind of prepared for quick draw position, which is interesting. And she's apparently wearing a jumpsuit. We'll see what I make of that. And by the way, the reason I've taken the tabs off and put pins in their feet is because I'm going to attach them to bases that I already have prepared since long ago. Yeah. And finally, we have the femme fatale. She has her pistol out and ready because she doesn't have anywhere to hide it in that dress. Showing a little leg there. But otherwise, pretty demure. Yeah. So, I think these will be very interesting and very, very fun to paint. I like minis like these. These inspire me. Next week, I mean, a week from now is the week before Easter, and that week is a school holiday this year in Sweden. So I'm gonna have a lot of time to paint, so I need to prep a bunch of stuff for that week. So here is the other batch, which is from the first Kickstarter for the Innsmouth townsfolk. And this particular baggie contains sailors, and here we have some varied people, some more sailors, or rather I think fishermen, and some armed guys, a machine gunner, and I think he's holding a shotgun, and I'm not sure, oh, this guy is holding a big fish. And these guys are also partly some armed people, some militia, some dudes. Actually, a lot of these are more interesting and have a bit more character than the second batch. I mean, the second Kickstarter that I already painted. Yeah. Anyway, these will get prepped and based and primed by next Monday. That's my pledge. Now, while browsing my shelves of old painted minis, I saw something that I thought might make an interesting side project. This is a Call of Cthulhu Investigator from, I don't recall which company. Probably Grenadier, maybe Rob Partha, back in the day. And this was painted sometime, probably in the late 80s. As you can see, it's not up to my current standards. It's not a bad paint job. It's clean. It has it's not sloppy. It's painted in the right areas, and there's some good color choices and contrast. But it could use a bit of touching up. So I'm not going to strip this. I'm not going to repaint it completely. I'm just going to rebase it, put it on a new base, and I will improve. It'll be good practice trying to figure out how to, gently improve this paint job without, just painting over it completely. Yeah. Look forward to that. Let's see. And what do we have here? Well, it's this week's new arrival, which has bumped my numbers up so much. This is something that I actually pre-ordered last year. It finally arrived after a couple of false starts. It's a big box full of the Achtung Cthulhu skirmish game 2-player starter set. There is a lot here. First off, well, things are kind of packed in a reverse order. The smallest items on top. So we have a number of blisters. We have 2 copies of Badger's Commandos, which are some Allied troops. We have a Nazi Villains Black Sun, which is some leaders from the Black Sun cult. We have Investigators Pack 1. And this is some other Allied soldiers who are not named here. I have an inventory where it says which these guys are, I forget. Let's keep looking at the miniatures. We have a 10-pack of the Servitor Horde of Nyarlathotep Hotep, which are Nazi soldiers that have been mutated into, well, having very weird tentacle heads. We have another 10-pack of Black Sun Troopers. And then we have 4 special resin minis, which one of them is a hero, I think one of them is a villain, and then there's some monsters or spirits or something. We have an extra set of dice. We have some cards, some spell cards apparently. I'm not sure if these are the same as the ones in the box. This is the campaign book for Rise of the Black Sun, and finally there's a box called the Commander's Set with rulebook, cards, dice, and counters. Yeah, let's open it. So the Commander's Set contains another pack of cards. I think it's a different... yeah, this pack in the box is thicker than this. So I think these must be some bonus cards, some extra cards. I hope they're not duplicates. Another dice set. This seems to be identical. A blast template of some kind. And some charts, some counters, more templates and stuff, and the rule book. Well, I can probably fit some more of this stuff in here, possibly the dice as well, and everything else. So yeah, this will all fit. I don't need to have as many boxes. That's good. Anyway, this stuff again puts me really in the red as far as purchased versus painted goes. So I'll have to get cracking on the painting. But until next week, that's where I'll leave you. Bye bye. This is Dakian signing off.